Tonight on Book Time with Bottrill, we have an exclusive interview with the recently deceased Harper Lee.
Good evening, Miss Lee. How are you this evening?
As good as you can be when you just bit the bullet.
Alright, so in your book, To Kill a Mockingbird, you utilised a wide variety of literary devices. Would you like to explain a few of these to us?
Why, yes, and any particular literary devices you'd like me to explain?
Alright, so let's start with colloquial language. Why did you use this in your book?
Back in my day, when I was a small child like Scout was, there were many people who didn't use the English language like we do nowadays. So of course there was going to be a unique expression or two. To me, you sound like you have an accent. But I don't think I have an accent, because that's just the way the word works.
That is so true, quite intriguing actually. Now, you quite often use the literary device of foreshadowing. Would you like to explain that to us and why it's utilised?
Well, I don't think a book would be very interesting without having much foreshadowing, because it gives the proceedings much more depth and complexity. If you foreshadow something and then you finally get up to the point and you're just like, oh my lord, and you realize it's much more shocking because you remember when it was first foreshadowed, and then you realize, oh my gosh, that's what they were talking about. This is also tied in with the symbolism of the title, To Kill a Mockingbird.
True that. So before this interview, we did go around and interview a fair number of other high school students. Quite a few of them picked up the usage of symbolism in your book. So many of the students picked up that between Tom Robinson and the title. Would you like to explain how you showed this?
Oh, well, when I first stated in the book that you can shoot all the blue jays you want, but it's a sin to kill a mockingbird, well, if you really think about the story, Tom Robinson was the mockingbird. He never did nothing wrong. He was always very kind to people, especially the Yules. So when you actually end up with what happened in the story, it was quite true to the title, To Kill a Mockingbird, because he never did nothing. This also connects to Boo Radley's role in the story. He was probably mentally ill, but was being teased for not coming out of his house when all he ever wanted to do was be left alone.
That is quite true. Now, there are many themes picked up in your book, but one of these many themes is that you showed how only the white children got to go to school and get an education. You never really talked about the black children much. Do you want to explain this for us?
Why, yes'm. Well, there weren't many black children around where the white kids lived, because they lived on the other side of town where all the black folks lived. Also, none of the black children got to go to school because it just wasn't allowed back then.
For what reason do you believe that it wasn't allowed for them to go to school?
Well, in their eyes, it just wasn't appropriate.
Interesting. Do you have any examples, such as when Scout and Jem went with Calpurnia to the Black People's Church, and only about 3 of them could actually read the hymn books? Is that how you showed that the black people didn't go to school?
Why, yes, and the only reason some of them folks could read was because Calpurnia taught them. The only reason Calpurnia could read was because the Finches taught Calpurnia.
Interesting. So you also have many families in the story, but there's segregation between those families, and even more segregation between the white and black families. For example, you had the Finches, who are known to be the lawyers and the good people, but then you had the Yules, who are essentially outcasts.
Well, of course, because in every society there is a hierarchy. No matter where you are, depending on who you live with, there will always be a hierarchy. Everybody's different. I had to tell that in my story.
Yeah, that is true. And even in today's society, although it is not to do with your surname or family you're from, is mainly based on how much money you have.
Yeah, how much money you have, where you live, even what schools you go to.
Well, I think you have given us a lot of literary devices and information on how you use them in your book, To Kill a Mockingbird. I'm afraid we have run out of time for tonight on Book Time with Bottrill. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. I had a lovely time chatting to you about my book, but I left the oven on in the afterlife, so I better be off now.
Goodbye, Miss Lee. Until next time.
Next time on Book Time with Bottrill, we discuss the origin of the 50 Shades of Grey story and its cult following features. Thank you for watching and good night.